Mark Webber, well known in motorhead circles, but not so much in cycling circles. But Mark Webber's our very own Australian Formula One driver, and welcome to Sooty Park.
Well, no problem. It's good to be here. Thanks.
And tell me about your interest in cycling. Has that always been an interest, or is it something you've recently developed?
Definitely picked it up when I went to Europe. Met a few people over there who are into triathlons and then more specifically into cycling. And when I went to ride road bikes over there in Europe, and first of all started to do some climbing in the south of France, and I got such a great buzz out of going so high on the bikes in terms of altitude, and just spinning away and doing the roads are really nice, and the people are really good too on the roads. And so I did a lot of BMXing when I was younger in Australia, but I never rode a road bike here or a mountain bike until I went to Europe.
And is that part of the fitness regime for being a Formula One driver? Because it's not just sort of, most of the Formula One drivers aren't fat blokes sitting in cars, are they? They're all pretty fit.
Yes, we are all generally in reasonable shape, especially the conditioning we get from the cycling is good, because it's obviously a long sort of session, longer sessions you can do in terms of the duration. The volume of your conditioning is always improved on the bike, so it's low impact, all the things which we like about cycling that you can go out and enjoy. And it's a group thing. It's not too dissimilar to golf. You can still have a conversation, you can have some fun while keeping fit. A lot of the other drivers do cycle. Cycling's popular in Europe anyway, in general, so that's a very popular sport. And whether it's Fernando Alonso or Michael Schumacher, Fisichella, I mean, God, Jenson Button, pretty much all the guys do ride bikes at certain stages in the season.
Mm-hmm. And I think Alain Prost just did the Etapta Tour. Did he finish it, or?
Yes, Alain, he's very strong on the bike actually, from what I've heard. Yeah. My maximum heart rate's about 180, and so when I start working above 160, obviously I'm working quite hard. So generally within the race I'll hover between sort of 125 and 145, and around the pit stops it'll go up a little bit more because I've got to align the car. There's always potential to overtake people around pit stops, so there's a bit more pressure on there. So.
And what about the start line?
Yes, that's a good question, because obviously you haven't used a muscle at all. You're just sitting there generally trying to relax, but obviously the heart rate is up due to the adrenaline. So it sort of sits on about 100 on the start, 110.
Dude, that's what my heart rate sits on at the start of my races as well. And just for the people who love their heart rate monitors, etc., do you know your VO2 max?
No, I did a test. I'll be guessing again. I'm always shocked when people ask me this question, because I did a test actually, Chris Carmichael's with the guy that's done a lot of work with Lance Armstrong, and that's actually at altitude. I know my lactic threshold is about 225 watts in terms of, that's when I'm starting to generate a bit too much lactic threshold. So when I've got my power tap and all my other little toys, and so I love going out and using that with my training. Yeah.
And speaking of Lance Armstrong, he was one of the people, the other sports people you sort of idolised to some degree. Yep. You got a chance to meet him. Did he fulfil your impression of what you thought Lance Armstrong would be?
Yes, he did. Very, very sharp individual. Very, very obviously intense. That's what you'd expect from Lance. And to spend a few days with him cycling, and also having meals with him in the evening, I think it was good to get to know him a little bit better. Obviously you don't get to know someone in 5 minutes, which wasn't the case. I mean, we spent a bit of time, but I don't know him that well. But it was good. Yeah, amazing person. Cancer's been pretty hard with my family, and I just thought that I wanted to don't come back to Australia that often, but I wanted to put something back into the community here, especially for the youngsters. I think, if you get to 70, 80, 90, you've had a good knock, and that's happens. But when you're a young child and you're suffering with that disease, which is very, very horrible, the more funds and interest we can and research and awareness we can get, the better. And the challenge down in Tasmania went very, very well. The corporates absolutely loved it, and as did some of the athletes, the Craig Mottrams of this world, and Shane Kelly and Craig Walton. So we had some superb athletes down there. They absolutely loved it, and it's going to go from strength to strength, and I think we're going to raise some good funding. So
what we're talking about is, it's an event called the Mark Webber Challenge. What's the website?
Mark Webber Challenge website.
It looks like a spectacular event, like the scenery, and running through forests and mountain biking and kayaking. For people who love outdoors, it just looks fantastic.
It is. A lot of people just could not believe where they went. They said, "Oh my God, I did not know this existed down here." And some of the mountain biking we did was just absolutely incredible. And the running, through sort of nice pine needles, and then you've got a 300-metre cliff on the left-hand side, and it was just absolutely amazing. Bruny Island and some of the places we went to were just incredible. We loved it.
And did Sid Tablet win the mountain bike leg?
Sid was very strong. Yeah, Sid was. He was a bit sore and stiff after the hiking. He said his legs and quads couldn't really handle it. He couldn't really walk that well the next day. But Sid's a really top guy, really, really nice. And I went to the touring cars with him the day after, or 2 days after on the Sunday. But Sid was very strong. We had a little bit of fun on one of the courses where it was a little bit more technical. And there's no way I could stay with him. He's very, very quick.
You recently interviewed Mark Webber, and he said he had trouble following you through the descents. But you got a little story about that, haven't you, down at the Mark Webber Challenge?
Yeah, Mark's really competitive actually. It's pretty funny, like all the descents he was just, he was always, looking at you and, trying to egg you on. And one of the first stages, just a cruising stage out of Cradle, we were going down the road, and typical Mark, he's just hooking into the corners, and we've come out into the main road and there's a car coming in. Everyone else is just stopping, and he's just like, oh shit, do I stop, do I go? And almost T-boned the car. It's pretty funny.
So the car stopped for him?
The car stopped for him. I think that was a little bit in shock.
So you don't mind the technical stuff, you like riding that?
Yeah, I do, but sometimes I risk a bit too much, and that's the problem, and I can't really get injured. So
as opposed to the risks that you carry in F1.
Exactly, yeah. Well, it's I know what I'm doing probably a little bit more there. It's like snow skiing or mountain biking. You can always bite off a bit more than you can chew sometimes. Can
you do a wheelie on a mountain bike?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad.
Mark, I wanted to ask you about, you say cycling's popular in Europe. Do you think, and you said it's sort of safer to ride on the roads over there, do you think European drivers are better, or is that a cultural thing? Or
both. I think that they're definitely more tolerant with cyclists being on the road and sharing their space with them. That's just it's come through the generations of people being able to deal with that. And obviously over here cycling has had a huge explosion into Australia, and people are still getting their head round having to put up with the cyclists potentially in their space a little bit and costing them 6 or 7 seconds of their day. It's a great sport. People, unless people have actually probably experienced riding a bike, and which a lot of people have done, but actually when you get clipped into a bike and you do it nicely and you do it properly with a nice bike, and you have a tailwind and you have all the nice things which we enjoy, that's hard for a driver to sort of relate to why someone would want to be out there, cycling along with these tight shorts on and doing all the things which some of the, when you have the tradies, the guys in their utes, and they're the guys which obviously do get a little bit aggressive sometimes, and people, don't like to sit, but I don't think it's good to sit too up sometimes. Sometimes we have to be sensible as well, and I always think that I never ride with music in my ears. I always try to listen to the traffic and feel what's going on out there, because if you are part of the traffic, you should be really part of it and not sort of lock yourself away with music and just be oblivious to what's going on around you, and that's arrogant for the cyclist. But also for road users to understand that cyclists, we cannot ride in the gutter. I mean, we have to ride a little bit out because the road does change. We've got drains, obviously, and there's little things like that. We've got
lots of punctures.
Yes, and loads of punctures. It's more consistent for us to keep a consistent line, maybe 1 metre out from the gutter, and then we just stay straight. Because if we keep doing this, then they'll be even more disappointed with us. Sometimes we can ride a bit closer to the gutter, but there's no sense in keep going in and out. And that's where some people will get more and more experience with dealing with cyclists on the road.
And I think it's just fantastic that you're the #1 patron of the Amy Gillett Foundation, and that's got to be the best way to educate the co-utilisation of roads with drivers, having our #1 driver as a representative for a cycling organisation.
Yeah, well, I was in Germany when that tragic accident happened, and at the end of the day, they're humans on these bikes, and road cars can do a lot of damage. And I've seen, unfortunately, some bad crashes that can happen with cars and cyclists, and it can go wrong very, very quickly. And that's why I'd love to support the Amy Gillett Foundation and trying to help the awareness between both people so they can enjoy their cycling, and both people have a role to play. It's not just the cyclists, we own the road, no, but it's also not the drivers need to be sometimes just a fracco patient, give us a bit more room. And I always give someone a little bit of wave on the bike. If I can hear them waiting and I know that they come around a corner and then they give me a bit of time, I always give them a wave, and generally they get a wave back, and that's how it works. So we should communicate together.
So give them the wave. That's the message from Mark Webber.
Yep.
And so what's coming up for you next season? Red Bull?
Yeah, Red Bull Racing start up in June, and the new car will be ready then, and it's very, very exciting, and looking forward to getting going in that car and hopefully come back here in Melbourne and get a good result.
And we look forward to watching you, Mark. So good luck for the next season.
Cheers, thanks.